Hi, Mother's Day is coming up, and we know it's always hard to find gifts that are meaningful and also things that aren't something that our mothers or grandmothers already have. So what I'm going to show you how to do today is to make a bunch of beautiful paper flowers from paper that would otherwise make its way to landfill or into the recycling bin. So as we know, paper is one of the most commonly discarded materials, so today we're going to try and put it to good use to make some beautiful flowers that hopefully mum or grandma will love. So I'll show you a couple of different techniques. This is what our bunch of flowers should look like afterwards, and you can make it as big or small as you like. So to start with, you need some paper. So I'm going to use paper from an old book, which is the Dictionary of National Biography, ex-library book, or a magazine. So let's start with the magazine. Let's try and find some nice colourful pages. Got some pages from deep under the sea, nice different colours. We're going to tear out about 3 pages. So depending on how heavy the paper is, okay, if it's fairly heavy like magazine weight, probably only want to work with about 3 pages. If it's a little bit lighter, like this book I've got, you could work with 4 or 5 pages. So the first thing I'm going to do is make a square out of a rectangle, and to do that you need to fold one corner of the page down to the opposite side, and to make sure that top edge sits flat with the side edge. And you fold it down like this into a triangle, and then we need to trim the bottom off, and we're going to use that excess paper we trim off. I'll put that aside. Now once I've got this shape, I need to fold it in half again, and now I need to cut the petals. So to cut the petals, I'm going to just free cut, but you can draw it on first if you like. I'm going to cut down towards the centre and up again. Now you really want your petals to be nicely shaped, so don't be afraid to cut right in to the centre and make them nice and curved, and then back out again to the outside. So you end up with kind of a funny looking V shape like this. So unfold the layers, you'll see your flower shape starting to form. Then we're going to separate the 3 layers and lay them out so that we're filling up all the gaps and we're making our flower nice and full. Okay. Then we hold it in the centre with one hand, and with the other hand we pinch it at the bottom and fold it in as we pinch it. And you can spend a little more time shaping this, but that's the basic shape of the flower. Now to hold that in place, I'm going to use a trusty stapler to just give it one little staple at the bottom to hold it all together. You can keep folding and shaping your petals. It's our first flower. Let's pop a stick, okay, saving those barbecue skewers from those veggie kebabs, sticking it into the bottom. We've got our first flower. You can even go an extra step and perhaps wind some paper around the stem so it looks more natural. Okay, now a different type of flower is one like this, where rather than having lovely round petals, we've got more of a loose, wild, whoops, always a bit of comedy in our instructions here at Reverse Garbage. So how do you make this one? Let's have a look. We're going to start in the same way, but this time I'm going to use the lighter weight paper from the book. So I'll take 5 sheets out. And again, the same step, making a square, taking that top corner, folding it so that the top of the page sits in line with the edge, and trimming the bottom once again. Folding in half, so same steps as the first flower, but this time instead of cutting our petal shapes, we're actually just going to cut into that triangle, but not all the way down to the bottom. So cut from one side and the other, And just being careful not to cut off any of our petals. Now you'll notice on the folded edge there's a large piece. We'll just cut that in half. Okay, then we open that one up. And again separate all of the pages out very gently. And lay them out on top of each other and turning them around so that you have an even spacing. Okay, so you've got them like this, and then pinching again, holding the centre and pinching at the bottom and joining them together. Got our lovely wildflower there. Again, one staple in the bottom and adding one of our reuse skewers as our stem. Pretty cute. Okay, let's have a look at a third type, which is using all of the offcuts. So using all of these offcuts that we created to make our squares. Okay, grabbing those, folding them in half, and then cutting from the open edge, not the folded edge, cutting some strips up to the top without going all the way up. So cutting about 1 centimetre away from the top of our fold. And doing the same with our book pages. And then opening those out, separating them. Then we're going to roll them together. So folding them in half again as individual pieces, and then from one corner, rolling it in towards the other edge. You can see it's what it's going to perhaps look like. Taking the next one and literally just wrapping it around the last one. The great thing with reused paper is that if you make a mistake, it doesn't matter. So it's a great material to just play with and experiment, and in fact I made up all of these flowers just by playing with the paper and seeing what it could do. So all it takes is a little bit of imagination and allowing yourself just to play with the material and experiment. Now we could stop there and just make a book page flower, or we can keep going with our magazine pages and add a little bit of colour around the outside, which I think I will do. It's starting to take shape now. The great thing about paper flowers, a lot like real flowers, is that when you don't want them anymore, you can throw them in the compost or the worm farm. Now last layer going on. Okay, make sure that you've got all your layers secure at the bottom, because we're going to bring in that trusty stapler again. Give it a good staple at the bottom now. If it looks a little bit too straight and perfect, let's just mess it up a little bit to look more like a natural flower. And we'll pop one of those skewers on and add it to our bouquet. Woo! Okay, so we've got 3 different types of flowers here, all made with book pages, but I've also got some other paper that I'm about to use that's pretty special, and that is some thin tissue paper. Looking pretty good, isn't it? Some thin tissue paper that you can get from us here at Reverse Garbage. Lots of different colourful prints. It's actually the paper that they use to transfer onto fabric, to make printed fabrics. So if you felt so inclined, you could also iron this onto a piece of polyester cloth and you'd get a lovely pattern. So let's make some squares again. They don't have to be perfect. Okay, I'm going to make some large flowers. So I'll layer these. I've got 2. I think I might use about 4 pieces of tissue. So I'll get them roughly the same size. Making flowers with flower tissue paper. What a great idea. Okay, 4 layers. So at this point I've already got squares. I'm just going to fold them in half to triangles and then half again. And then cut out those petals. So remembering to make them nicely defined right down to the middle and out again. So you end up with something that looks like this, and then opening them up. And because these are printed on one side only, just think about how you're going to place your pattern. So I might do some that are faced up and some that are facing down. So again, spreading them out so you fill up all the spaces, holding in the centre, pinching in the bottom. And a lovely big tissue flower. 1 staple at the bottom. There we go.